Hello everyone, and welcome to my new apartment building. Yes, that's right, as of September of 2022, I've officially moved out of my parents' house thanks to a new job, and I've officially made my base in Los Angeles, which is just a little ways north of where Torrance was, and a little ways being relativistic in nature. That being said, it's been a while since I've been up here. As you likely heard in the last video, I was going on a hiatus to make a mystery novel. As it happens, I've done all the writing for that now. I'm just awaiting the cover art. I've got someone working on that now. But hopefully we'll have a release by May. That's the hope. Not to put pressure on them, because I know perfection can't be rushed. That being said, in the spirit of the fact that I've made this move, albeit months and months ago by now, I decided to do some social media creepypastas for this episode of Monster Mondays. So we'll start with something horrible is happening to me on MySpace, something horrible is happening to me on, then pick up with something as horrible is happening to me on Tumblr. Then we'll read something horrible is happening to me on Reddit. And then we'll finish it off with don't find your roommates on social media. Ha! How meta, am I right? Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Something horrible is happening to me on MySpace. I'd completely forgotten about MySpace. Like I'd forgotten... I'd completely forgotten about MySpace. Like I'd forgotten it even existed. Never mind the fact I used it like a fiend at the peak of its popularity, and I'd had countless photos and messages and connections still there, frozen in time so anyone could see what a disaster I was in my early 20s. Don't we know that? A couple weeks ago I got an email warning me about some major hack that resulted in tons and tons of accounts being compromised. A compromise so severe that some people, every shred, every bit, every datum of their personal information could have been stolen. Then I remembered MySpace. My early 20s were a bad time for me. I was dealing with a number of undiagnosed mental illnesses. Still back then, I never thought anything was wrong with me at all. I just figured that's how I was. I was a sad person. I was a volatile person. Not once did it cross my mind I had legitimate problems for which potential solutions existed. Instead, for years I bathed in static and lassitude, interrupted by bursts of rage and terror. After what you presumably saw was a jump cut, it seems like these social media stories were not quite completed, or if they were, the author hasn't updated the site to reflect as much, so clicking the continue button on any of the sources is not going to reveal anything but a 404 type page. That being said, I've instead opted to add on a couple more stories that at least have some content to it, to this video, that are basically just warm-ups for what the main story is going to be about. So, let's continue. Something horrible is happening to me on Tumblr. I started up a Tumblr blog last November so I could get better exposure for my writing. I was surprised at how quickly it took off. There's a big horror subculture that seems to enjoy the type of stuff I write, so it didn't take long before I'd gotten well over 10,000 followers and was cruising along pretty well. As the blog got more established, though, some frightening things started to happen. Before I go on, I need to give a little background info. For those who don't know how Tumblr works, they have something called reblogging, which just means you repost something that someone else put on their blog. It shows up in your own blog with the creator's name and link to it. It basically can allow your content to grow viral very quickly. Like, you could post something and then someone with a large and established blog may reblog it to their hundreds of thousands or millions of followers who can then do the same over and over until it eventually dies down. Obviously, I wanted to spread my stories and brand as far and wide as I possibly could. I sought out opportunities to get my content reblogged by one of those well-established bloggers. After a month or so, it happened. The story of mine got shared well over 1,000 times and gained hundreds of followers. That type of thing happened on many occasions over the following months, leading me to where I was late this April. Funny coincidence for what month it is right now. In April, after one story did particularly well, we started getting weird messages in my inbox. All of them said something similar. Something to the lines of, "Hey, I reblogged your story and started getting really personal messages from you. Can you please not?" And then we have something horrible is happening to me on Reddit. I'm not really sure how to explain this properly without sounding like a lunatic, but I'm going to try my best. Over the last few years, I'd gained some notoriety after posting unsettling vignettes. Freaking French words, I tell you. No offense. In the comments of some r/WTF posts. Most of them are humorous and deliberately disgusting, but I always figured people visiting this subreddit and looking at whatever gross picture I was commenting on would be able to handle them. Then last fall, I started frequently writing stories for r/NoSleep. I stopped creating these little vignettes to concentrate on more proper work. It all went pretty well. I surprised myself with my prolificacy, and it appeared I'd tapped into a creative pool that had been inaccessible to me for 2 decades. Towards the end of the last month, though, some disturbing things started happening. It started off with a few strange messages. All of them said something similar. "Why don't you post on r/WTF anymore?" The odd thing is, instead of a username, it just said brackets deleted. First couple of times I just ignored them. I'm so used to getting weird messages and emails. I figure it's just the cost of doing business when you write the kind of stuff I do. On May 24th, I got something different. To properly contextualize what I'm about to say, I need to bring up one of my more popular r/WTF posts. It was inspired by a .gif of a ribbon worm extending its proboscis. Here's my link. My comment, which both delighted and sickened thousands of people, was, "Imagine bringing the head of your cock face to face with that beautiful creature. The tip of your penis would touch the tip of its mouth and it would carefully insert its proboscis into your urethra. From there, it could make a decision. Will it go in the bladder or will it go into your prostate? It's a difficult decision for the creature, but eventually it eventually goes the way of the prostate. You moan as the tendril squirms its way into that walnut-sized semen factory, which has already started producing way more than it's used to. The other end of the creature is flopping happily between your legs. It gives its testicles a tantalizing tease. You let out a coitish giggle. Oh, creature, you sigh. Soon your prostate will be ready with an orgasm that sends shockwaves through every muscle in your body. You ejaculate countless spermatozoa in the mouth of your creature lover. Gently you feel its proboscis retract. You shiver with the touch of overstimulation as you realize it had branched off in many directions while inside of you, and it had started unraveling from the inside of your scrotum. Once you are 2 separate creatures again, you bring it up to your mouth. Carefully you squeeze its belly like a world-class pastry chef working a tube of icing. You coat your tongue with the sperm you released into your lover. It's been mixed with enzymes naturally produced to aid in its digestive process. Grinning, you put the creature on your shoulder. You love morning sex, now it's time for you two to have a beautiful day together. I'd be the first to admit, it's not exactly Nabokov or Hemingway, but still it catapulted me to a weird level of fame in r/whatthefuck. And frequently get notified of my username being mentioned whenever something gross is posted and people would want me to write a story about it. Now that little above vignette was from June 5th, 2015, over a year ago, it was when I'd gradually started transitioning to r/NoSleep content, but still hadn't really done much of note. When the brackets deleted messages started coming through last month, that was the first vignette that was directly referenced. I was so inspired by the story about the sea creature and the lucky man. I can't wait to show you. Then on May 25th, the day after I got the message I mentioned, I received a link also from Deleted. I'm still kicking myself for clicking it. I've worked in IT for 15 years and I know never to click anything that's unfamiliar, but for whatever reason I did, and I think I will always regret it. The link was to some .ru site. It had a video player in the middle of the page and nothing else. I'm not going to go into detail. All I will say is someone created a crude mechanical ribbon worm out of some latex and what had to be a rotary pipe cleaner. There was a man strapped to the table. He was nude over the course of the 30-second video, which depicted a much longer period of activity but played at an increased speed. I watched the tool bury itself into the man's anatomy, just like how I described in the vignette. I slammed my laptop shut at the 24-second mark when the end of the tool exploded out from inside the man's left testicle. When I opened my laptop, the site reloaded itself and brought up a 404. I checked the Reddit inbox and then all the brackets deleted messages was gone. A mail to the administrators went unnoticed or unread. I tried my best to forget about what had happened, but then I got something else a while later. This time the deleted message referenced a vignette I'd written about a wolf spider. Here's the picture and here's the vignette. Wolf spiders are quite docile. A trick to interacting with one is to approach it from behind and carefully pick it up by its abdomen. Make sure you do this slowly. You do not want any of our children to be disturbed. Also remember to have a friend nearby. Place the abdomen in your mouth and press upward with your tongue until the spider bursts against your soft palate. This will get the baby spiders to move around quite a bit, but you'll be ready for them. Take the penis of your friend and insert it in your mouth, being extra cautious to let as few of the babies escape as possible. Perform fellatio on your friend. Your mouth should be quite slick with the combination of spider mulch and your warm saliva. The difficult part here would be to use your tongue to force as many baby spiders into his urethra as possible before he ejaculates. It's well worth the effort, and thanks to the high number of wolf spiders in certain parts of the world, it's easy enough to try again if he orgasms too quickly. Again, I'm aware it's not quite a nice nin or anyone else with talent, but brackets deleted appeared to care very deeply about what it meant. The following day I received another message. It contained a link to another different .ru site. My morbid curiosity got the better of me and I clicked. Same video player, same sped up footage. Two people, a man and a woman, were seated next to each other. Another person was present. He was masked and pointing a gun at the head of the woman. She lifted a towel off a fish tank and on a table in front of them. A massive wolf spider stood inside, her body covered with a writhing sea of babies. The masked figure taped the gun against the top of the woman's head. She reached in and after pausing for a split second and closing her eyes, shoved the spider into her mouth. The arachnic burst between her teeth and the babies crawled all over her face. She chewed while the man looked on, crying. As the woman chewed, she maneuvered herself between the legs of the crying man. Before she could perform the act mentioned in the story, she vomited the contents of her mouth onto her partner and the floor. The masked figure fired 2 shots at the woman's head. Another person came in from the background and began lapping up the expelled spider contents and resumed the place in the story. The video cut away. I was sick, literally. I ran to the bathroom and puked up bacon, egg, and cheese I'd had a couple hours before. When I got back, my browser had frozen. I had to do a hard restart of the machine. When everything was reloaded, the page was gone and the deleted messages were gone. I was absolutely terrified. I thought about calling the police, but with no evidence and only my own stories existing to make me look like the crazy one, I decided to just work on calming the fuck down. It didn't work very well. A couple weeks went without anything out of the ordinary happening, and I prayed it was over. I started to convince myself these videos were pranks by one of my more creative and insane fans. I even visualized getting an email in the near future that would tell me it was a joke and they were thankful I'd inspired their performances. Yesterday I got a message that it wasn't what I'd hoped for. The message referenced a very short comment I made on a post about the mouth of lamprey. Here's the image that inspired the comment. I'd wrap that lamprey around my cock and not only fuck it, but spin it around like an old school pencil sharpener until I either came or bled to death. No way that lamprey isn't getting fucked. No way. All the brackets deleted message said, after it told me how much it enjoyed my writing, was, I'm delighted you decided to write this in the first person. I've been wanting to meet you for so long. We're gonna make such beautiful video together. Like I mentioned, that was yesterday. With all the other ones, the videos came a day after the message referring to the comment that inspired them. It's been 16 hours and all I can do is sit here shaking with fear, waiting for the moment someone arrives at my door. And now, we move on to... something horrible is happening to me on Grindr, as if that last story wasn't raunchy enough. And here we go. So many penises. Since Eugene left me, I must have looked at 1,000 of them. Cut, uncut, black, mocha, tan, pink, beige, thick, thin, long, hairy, shaved, trimmed, veiny, smooth, micro, macro, and even the elusive gargantuan. I'll be honest with you though, it's not like I was even open to the idea of a hookup at that point. It was still too soon. The emotions were too raw. That said, I wasn't going to be ashamed of myself for looking at pictures of dicks to help pass the time. I like dicks. After a few weeks of browsing, I started to involve myself in actual chats. You know, the more basic you show me yours and I'll show you mine type of stuff I've been doing. Most guys didn't really want to talk about much. They were more interested in meeting up and banging. I wasn't ready for that though. I was polite enough with my rejections and most of them were cool with it. Not all, but most. One afternoon last month, some guy named Dion sent me a message. I almost fainted. He was gorgeous. He looked like he'd been carved up from onyx and sculpted by Michelangelo himself. We chatted for a while, pretty easily too. Not once did he hint at a hookup, rather than advertising himself with below-the-waist pictures. The most risque photo he sent me was him standing shirtless in his sweatpants. He told me he'd just gone through a breakup too and he wanted to take things slowly. It was all music to my ears. Well, since we'd only been chatting through text at that point. But those text chats turned into multi-hour chat sessions. After a couple of days, I gave him my number. We talked on the phone more than I'd ever talked to anyone, even Eugene. And we were together for 7 years. Something about Dion just seemed right. I got the impression he felt the same way about me, too. This next one is going to be the one you've all been waiting for. The most meta one that I could possibly do within this new roommate situation. Don't find your roommates on social media. I was not going to go back to school in the fall. I wanted to focus on some hobbies of mine such as photography and music. However, my girlfriend of 3 years persuaded me to go back and finish what I started. After all, I was already halfway through my degree. By the time I decided to go back, it was already well into July. She helped me send a few emails to the appropriate people at the school, and I was back on track to go back to school. Except for one thing. Housing. I was sent on a mad search for housing for the fall. As the school year was approaching, I was starting to panic about where I was going to live. I searched frantically on all social media known to me for a place. Finally, one afternoon I saw an ad for a 5-bedroom apartment with 4 people looking for a 5th roommate. I responded as soon as I could, leaving them my contact info. From the pictures, it looked like a decent apartment. Fast forward a month, finally moved in, met the roommates, and classes were finally starting. It wasn't until about 3 weeks in that things started happening. I was sitting in my room around 12:30 a.m. playing some PlayStation when I heard a couple thuds come from outside my room. I went out and looked around and didn't see anything, so I decided to just go back to PlayStation. I never really thought anything of it. Off and on I would hear this strange thudding. Of course, living with 4 other people in a single apartment, I expected to always hear these noises. I tried joking with one of the girls, Erin, that our house is haunted from all the knocking that goes on in the night. We laughed, but in the corner of my eye I could see Frank, he just had a cold, dead stare at us. No emotion or expression went across his face as we were laughing. I thought it was a little strange, but hey, maybe he was afraid of ghosts. I don't know. Then the scratching came. The scratching I would hear all hours of the night. I knew it wasn't an animal. It was a pet-free apartment building. However, I have known friends who don't really care about those rules and just hide the evidence they had a pet. So I was stumped on what it could be. I always believed in ghosts and was a big fan of scary movies, ghost stories, no sleep, etc. So of course I got a few friends together, we had a few drinks, and got out our Ouija board. We were all drunk and asking questions, and of course the glass was moving to the letters, because some of us thought it would be funny. Nothing serious came of it. A few weeks went by and it is now October. My phone dinged early in the morning when I was getting ready for my 8 a.m. class. It was from our school's emergency notification system. It read, "All classes will be canceled for the day. Please check your email for any updates." Now at my school, classes are never canceled. There'd be a foot of snow on the ground and nothing would ever happen. I guess that's what you get for being in the middle of Pennsylvania. So of course I checked my email right away. Nothing. Oh well, class is canceled, I get to go back to bed. When I woke up again at 11, I found there were 6 messages from my girlfriend. Most of them were asking if I heard what had happened, and a few just to try and wake me up. I called her, but she was in class and couldn't talk. Clarification, she goes to a different school. I then checked my email, and there was one from our president. The subject was condolences. It read, "I'm saddened to inform you the death of blank, Pennsylvania. A freshman nursing blank died on October 17th. I removed her name out of respect to the family." Now, we've gotten these emails before, however, student death never caused classes to be canceled. Then I went on Facebook and found out why. She was found near our campus diner wearing no clothes, severely bruised and beaten. It was a homicide. Resulting from this, they put more security on campus and tightened things around the school. Another few weeks go by and we're into November. Midterms have passed, the scratching and thudding died down completely, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. That was until one day I came home from class and there were scratch marks through the hallway. I'm not talking little scratches from furniture, but scratches like something was being dragged through. I immediately asked if anyone was home, and my other roommate, Brianna, answered, "Yeah, I'm upstairs." I quickly ran up to her and asked, "What happened in the hallway? Looks like some animal was dragged through it." She quickly denied knowing anything about it and said it was like that when she got home also. Whatever, I didn't care as long as it didn't come out of my security deposit. The next day my phone dinged. Another text from the school emergency system. Student kidnapped around 2:30 a.m. on blank street. The student's name is blank. Her description is as follows. Female, 5'2", 135 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. Last seen at 11 p.m. wearing blue jeans and a purple hoodie. If you have any information, please contact the borough police at XXX-XXX-XXXXX. Period. We'll call her Jess for the sake of the story. Dear Lord, nothing like this ever happens at school. Scary to think it happened so close to me. 2. I went out to find roommates having breakfast and asked if they got the text too. They all had, and we just BS'd about how weird and unlikely it was it happened here. Weekend comes and everyone goes home except for me. It's around 8:30 on a Friday, and I decide to start having a couple drinks before heading out to the bar with my friends. I start hearing thudding and scratching. This time it was more than normal, and a ton louder. Of course I'm tipsy and scared, so I just head to my friend Jared's apartment. I explain what is happening, and he's decided after a few drinks at the bar we can go back to my house to look around. Around 1:30 a.m. after numerous shots and beers, we decided to head back to my apartment and search around. Let me give you some background of my apartment. It's the top 2 floors of a house, and we're on top of another apartment. You enter the porch of the house and immediately go up a flight of stairs to the 2nd floor of the house, but the 1st floor of my apartment. On the way up the stairs, there's a closet where we'd sometimes keep shoes and coats, but that's about it. Then on the 1st floor, it had the living room, kitchen, hallway, bathroom, and Frank and Aaron's room. The 2nd floor had Brianna's and Amanda's room. So come back to me and Jared coming from the bars. We're both pretty drunk at this point, making jokes and laughing about what this could be. But I don't think I could have prepared for what it was. We get back and we're just wandering around my house being stupid. Then I have the idea to check the closet that is on the way up from the 1st floor of the house. I open it, start moving around some coats, but no luck. It's not a very big closet. I moved some shoes and suddenly found more scratches, looking exactly like the ones that were in the hallway. I followed them and they stopped suddenly when it reaches the side of the closet. I called Jared over and he drunkenly kicked the wall where the scratches ended and it echoed. Very loudly at this point. We get pretty excited of the discovery we just made and tried to find a way to open up the wall. I really, really wish we would have just stopped. Down in the very corner is a small handle that we pulled. And what do you know? It opened a crawl space to go back to wherever this was going. We crawled back to find a staircase leading downstairs to the back of the house. The smell was terrible. Imagine taking rotten eggs mixed with a farm. It was disgusting. It was also dark, so we had to use our phones as flashlights. The minute we turned them on, we could see more of the scratches leading down the stairs as if something had been dragged all the way down. As we kept going down, the smell was getting worse and worse. The staircase turned and stopped. We came to a door. Us being drunk, we looked at each other, shrugged, and went in. The room was pretty big, a few tables and chairs, but nothing much. The floor was concrete along with the walls. I think we were in the basement of the house. We kept looking around. Something caught my eye, though, in the far corner of the room. There she was, Jess, chained up to the wall and motionless. We both ran over to see if she was alright, but unfortunately, she had passed away. We started to freak out and called the police. We were taken down to the station, obviously, to be interviewed. A million questions later, I was allowed to leave the station. I read the report, and the paramedics put her death on that night around 10 p.m. To this day, I don't know which roommate it was. None of them returned. No one was arrested. Moral of the story? Don't find your roommates on social media. And that concludes our social media and roommates themed Monster Mondays. Final thoughts? Well, the first few stories, were pretty self-explanatory. Like, the first one was kind of tame. Second couple went to really disturbing lengths. And, in terms of grossness more than fear-inducing stuff. And, well, that last one pretty much was what I expected it to be. A story where you meet these roommates, you sign the lease together. Everything seems to be going normal for, you in college or what have you. And then, before you know it, things slowly start to get weirder and weirder. So, with that being said, I definitely like this last one better than some of those other ones, but at the same time, I don't think I'm being entirely fair to say that this is in any way better than them, as they never got a chance to finish. However, I do hope they helped build up to this final story that was the crux of the video. With that, this has been the Forsaken Scribe on Monster Mondays, and remember, Mom's not here, kids. Bye-bye.